And put them to your. All right. Are we good? Fantastic. Thank you all for coming to the Board of Library Trustees meeting. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Sharon Fitzsimmons, Board Chairman.
I'm Chuck Stein.
I'm Ramona Wall.
Bob Donaldson.
Dorothy Waters.
And if we can get the staff to introduce themselves as well.
Amy Ford, Branch Manager, Lexington Park Library.
Mary Ann Bowman, Deputy Director.
Belinda Lloyd, HR and Finance Coordinator.
Shelby Miller, Admin Assistant.
And I am Michael Blackwell, and I have the honor of being the Director of St. Mary's County Library.
Fantastic. All right. So next on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved. Second.
So Chuck moves, Bob seconds.
I have a correction.
Dorothy has a correction. Go ahead, Dorothy.
The next meeting should be May 14th at the bottom.
The next meeting should be May 14th.
The 7th is the first Thursday.
Did we have a conflict with the room that moved it to the 7th?
We'll double check.
Okay. Good catch. If we've got the room reserved for the 7th, does that work for people? Okay. Yeah, so we will pending find out when we have the room reserved, because I know it's going to be difficult to change. All right. So then approval of the agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. All right, next approval of the March 2026 minutes. Any discussion or corrections needed? Or I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I second the motion. Second.
Okay, so Ramona moves, Dorothy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
I abstained because I wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, okay, Chuck abstains. Everyone else approves. Let's move on to celebrations. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, thank you so very much. We've got quite a few this month. First of all, to Samantha Clary, Naomi Cole, and Liv Smith, congratulations for completing the Early Start Library Associate Training Institute, in which they spend a fair amount of work time catching up with sort of the basics of what libraries stand for and what they mean, and get kind of the background, the history. And they unfortunately have to spend an hour talking with me about the vision of the library. So we feel sorry for them, but congratulate them for having finished this. Congratulations to Eleanor de Piazza. She has completed the Advanced Library Associate Training Institute, which involves working on a sort of a practicum project, and then working across the state, not just inside the library, with many of their cohorts. And the idea is to create future library leaders. So Eleanor, congratulations to you too. We have University of Alabama Master of Library and Information Science Scholarship Award winners, two of them here from our library. Denise Varela has won their Bethel Fight Endowed Scholarship, and Rena Nagoyan has won their core scholarship. And in your packet, did you give them the packet? Okay. You'll find a much longer discussion of what those are. So congratulations to both of you for getting some financial aid to continue on with your Master of Library Information Science program. We do have a milestone, and Emma cannot be with us today, but she's the Assistant Branch Manager for Youth Services, and she has been here for 10 years. So Emma, congratulations to you. We do have some hip hip hoorays. The first is for Laura Boone Chasry, our marketing coordinator, who has done an outstanding job the last 2 years coordinating our public budget advocacy. So we've already received a number of letters this year, and I've shared those with you. But they don't happen just by accident. We do reach out to folks and say, please support the library budget. And we'll be seeing more people come out to the public budget hearing on the 21st. And basically, we just sort of talk to them about what are good things to say, especially what the library means to you. We try to personalize this, and they've just done a very good job. And we've also had the most letters and speakers in many instances the last couple of years. So Laura, thank you for that. To Serena Cervantes for fostering a positive work culture and promoting the library. And we have a much more detailed description there on her hip hip hooray. But she does decorations, she does social media, so and just been a very positive influence and creating some great morale there at the Leonardtown Library. And finally, for Volunteer Month, we're going to recognize our volunteer coordinators, and that's Kimberly Fields and Jake Parsons here at Lexington Park, Christina Biglin, Vienna Thorne, and Connor Robinson, and Rena Nagoyan at Leonardtown, and Allison Guy and Samantha Clary up at Charlotte Hall. So thank you to all the work you do. And to all our library volunteers, none of them could be here right now, but we thank you very much for coming out. They do just all kinds of things that really help sort of streamline operations so that librarians are not kind of doing some really grunt work like, pulling reserves or setting up seed packets and things like that. So thank you very much to all our volunteers. Your work is greatly appreciated, and you do basically save us thousands of dollars a year through your volunteer efforts. Thank you.
All right, up next is a treasurer's report. Judith could not be here today, but you should have a printout. And so she did print this out for April. The major thing to note as we're looking at this is that we are making a decision today based on that lower number, the intern fund, to finance one of the summer interns for the library. So I think the percent change there being 100 is because in the last 3 months, we actually moved the money into that account. So it started from 0. We can ask Judith for more information next time when she comes, but I expect the percent change is due to all of the fluctuations in the market and not due to any particular choices that we've made about our holdings. So if there's no other, since Judith's not here to answer, I don't know that we have any way to have a discussion about it, but I wanted you to see that you have that and then come next month prepared with any questions you have.
And that is correct. Until the fluctuations began, the account was again up for the year. So I think it's invested properly. It's just volatility right now.
Absolutely. Next up on the agenda says Smurla report with John Johnson, and he is not able to be here, and I did not see anything from him online. So I think we'll postpone that until next month.
All right, well, moving right along then, if that's okay.
Yep,
The first
absolutely.
thing we'll do is take a look at the fiscal year 26 budget with 75% of the fiscal year passed. It's incredible enough as that may seem. And you're welcome, of course, to ask questions about any of the budget lines, but I'll just review some that might look to be of concern. And the first is on page 1. You'll see the substitute FICA has gone into the negative. What happens with that is on a quarterly basis, our accountant reviews, and typically those amounts go back up. So you look at FICA above for Lexington Park or for Leonardtown, they're both above the 75% figure, but those will get adjusted down. We're not quite certain how the adjustment happens because that's a standard percentage number, but it always does. So what you'll see there too, substitute salary is at 96%. Basically, substitutes come into the library when we have a vacancy or when, we don't have enough people to run the library and we call in some of our substitutes. And they're a great pool for then becoming work in the library. It's just a way to get their feet wet. But we have gone through that this year, so we'll just have to be very careful about how we assign substitutes on an ongoing basis. If you look down under health insurance, the first line, the OPEB, this is the amount that we pay into the account to pay for the premiums for our retirees. And you see it's at 91%. We have actually been overcharged on that. And that has been happening since January. So they overcharged us and we said, that's wrong. And they gave us a credit. And then they just overcharged us again. So this amount will go back down. We anticipate that's going to be no more than 90,000 for the year and within budget. The health clinic admin fees. Our new board members, are you aware of what that is?
No.
Okay, so the county offers a health clinic. It's on Moakley Street to county employees, to school employees, and we're included in that. So our employees can go there for emergency treatment. They can go to get physicals. They can go get sports physicals. They can have vaccinations and things like that. So we are eligible to go to that, and there is a fee for our participation in that. And the county's in the process of kind of evaluating that service and seeing how it's going, but we are under contract. So what has happened the last year is that we got a credit. We paid in more for the health insurance than we were actually needed to. So when they refunded us the money, we just paid that fee, said, don't bother swapping us to us and not having us send it back. Keep that. So we're not anticipating to have to pay that money out this year, but that's why there's a budget line for us. If it ever happens in a yearly basis that we do not put enough into the health premiums, then it could possibly be that we'd have to pay into that service.
Michael, do you know about that? I know with some health insurance companies that they will lower the premium because that service is available. Do you know
That is
if the
correct.
county's
Yeah.
getting that
Yeah,
discount?
that's one of the main reasons for having this. And again, the county set this up and not us, but they wanted us to participate just because we're in their health plan. And that does, we're anticipating save increases over a number of years. So while we're paying this out, we're anticipating, and the county is going to assess all this, that we will pay less over time because we have that as a program. Go ahead.
Sorry, I will say that I'm guessing that they're probably already seeing that. In general, you guys know that health prices are increasing significantly. We did just get the new health prices for FY27, and it's only a 2% increase.
Mhm.
So that's really great.
Yeah.
And so I think they're probably starting to see it already.
Several of us are using the clinic for primary care, and it's awesome. You don't have to pay a copay. You can get your blood work done right there. Most shots you can get done. And they are available like when you need them. You don't have to wait at urgent care. It's awesome.
That's great.
So I really hope we continue with the clinic.
And they do employ an actual doctor.
Mhm.
Nothing against nurse practitioners who are doing a fantastic job in St. Mary's County, but often, sometimes it can be difficult to see, all right, this is an MD. And so they do offer that as well. So we're grateful to be a part of that.
Could you go back just
Sure.
the first thing you talked about, the FICA, substitute FICA, why is it a negative? We've overpaid it for some reason. Is that what it says? We overpaid it?
I wouldn't say we've overpaid it. I say we've paid what we thought was due. And so because we've paid out most of the substitute hours, it's gone over. But what happens is the accountant comes back and looks at that, and for some reason it gets adjusted. Belinda, do you understand why it gets adjusted?
I do not.
Yeah.
But I do know they
Just-
do it because I
happens all the
check
time.
it. Because this happens throughout the year.
Because the pay is,
Right.
It's
And
the
it's
standard
it's a set
percentage.
percentage, which is what I calcake that FICA on.
Yeah.
It's a set
Okay.
percentage.
never mind.
So-
If you understand
It's coming from whatever Paylocity and it did it with paychecks too. It comes across with that. And then there's an adjustment that the accountants make quarterly and they honestly, they don't do the first quarter of the new year until after April 15th. Okay. So they'll make another adjustment soon, probably once they get past tomorrow or next week.
Okay,
So we're paying what we think is the right amount, and for some reason, what is happening through the payroll system is it charging perhaps more than it absolutely has to.
Matter of just the
Okay.
accounting numbers.
it's not a big
lines.
number no matter
No,
what, but
no,
but I just
And
curious. It seems like that is not a place that you would make a mistake.
you wouldn't think it. Well, over on page 2, you'll see that the Lexington Park Electric, and more surprisingly for us at this point, the Charlotte Hall Electric are over, and I anticipate that the Leonardtown Electric will be over as well before the year is out. We did get some additional funds from the county, as I'll talk about later, for increased electrical costs. So when we factor next year's budget, we'll bump those numbers up. Over on page 3 at the bottom, under professional services, we did review this last time as well, but the reason why accounting and audit is at 98% was that additional report that we got from Bolton. And bank service fees are a little bit higher, but the monthly amount's not particularly high. So those may go under, but I'm not anticipating there being too big an overage on them. On page 4, under technology, IT contract services is at 91%, but we have paid out most of that for the year. So that's kind of front loaded.
Mhm.
Most of the contracts come up in the first part of the year or in January.
Mhm.
And those are the only ones that really look to be, in terms of percentages, a consideration for me. Our fund balance is on page 11. It's $491,806. So that's just slightly above the 1 month balance that we like to keep. And that would be 8%. I note that the county's fund balance requirement is 15%. I'd be comfortable with us having 2 months, but I just don't think we're ever going to get there. So we're just kind of keep it at the 1 month and do our best to sort of stay above that limit. Any questions about the fiscal year 26 budget so far?
It looks like your donations, you're ahead of the game by a lot.
We are.
And is that because you're.
That's very
focused
nice.
on that? Huh?
Well, we
It's a good thing.
that's a very good thing, and getting in more money from the friends than we were anticipating is a very good thing. So, we budget a certain amount, trying to be conservative at that because we simply don't know. And when we get more than that, that's great.
So is the county and the state going to penalize you because you're getting more money from
No.
donors and therefore they can give you less?
I certainly hope not. No, they do not. They don't.
They're not
really
looking at
do
that.
that.
And
Okay.
these numbers are about normal.
Yeah.
We usually
are?
get, that the library does a very nice, in my opinion, very nice job of under budgeting for donations and friends of the library so that anything that comes in is something special that they can use
Oh,
for
good job.
something. It's not necessarily a line item.
For a time, we did budget the friends' money separately and had them pay for things out of their pockets so that it didn't look that way. But when I came on board, I knew the county commissioners knew we were getting money from the friends. I said, we're not going to try to hide it from you. Here it is. They occasionally will make jokes when we go for our budget hearing. Well, you got a lot of money from the friends this year. But they've never penalized us for it.
Okay.
That's good.
Also worth noting that the Friends of the Library book sale is coming up.
Book sale is coming up. Yes,
So that's
not
one of the major.
this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend, the 24th through 26th. Friday starts with members. So if you're a member, you get to get in and get first crack at all of the wonderful books. But then Saturday and Sunday, and those preparations are coming to a conclusion. They've got a lot of books this year, and we're just hope for great weather.
You said that the budget hearing was the 21st.
The budget hearing is the 21st, yes.
Is that something that is low? Where is that?
That's going to be at Chopticon High School, and that's a public hearing. So they'll open it up at 6 o'clock. You can sign up to speak, and then at 6:30 they start, and they run through any county budget initiative that they may have. So they'll say, and is there anyone who wants to testify for this particular thing? And then at the end, they'll do the whole general budget, and members of the community can sign up to speak. Last year, about 20 people spoke for the schools, about 12 for the library. This year, because the schools are getting, I think, pretty much everything they've asked for, I don't think you'll see a lot of people turn up to speak for the schools, because last year it was all, why aren't you giving us more money? Excuse me. We will have some people go to speak up for the library to ask for a little bit more here and there, and I'll talk about that in a while.
You'll remind us of that meeting so that.
Sure, yeah.
Because
And I will be there to speak for the library. And if you would like to, then you'd be more than welcome to. You get 3 minutes.
bring my
Yeah.
pitchfork.
Torches.
Usually if you speak on behalf of a group, you get 5 minutes.
So they're not doing that anymore.
They're not doing that anymore?
No, it's all
Oh.
been 3 minutes
Okay.
now. So
All right. Would you like to tell us about the budget update?
yes. So you have a sheet, the back of it looks like this, and it's impossible to read as
It
is
is.
for the most part. So Belinda has very handily put in a nice red box for you. So the commissioners, we're generous with us. I think that we got about 70% of our ask, which is nice. And they gave us money for a 2% cost of living allowance, a 3.66 market increase. And this is only the second time we've been involved with that market increase. The county has received it for a number of years. Unfortunately, it's going to go away. This is the last crack at it, but we did get our share of that. And then for a step increase of 2.5% on the anniversary of employment. So we got that. We got money for utilities. And that was 56,550. So that should make up for the overages we're seeing this year, because electric costs aren't going to be going down. And those are the primary things that we got money for. Then they took away some money because we were honest and said we didn't spend all the money in this line. So they said, oh, okay, it's very nice of you to be honest. We're just going to take that away from the amount that we're giving to you. Okay. Now, when we submitted that initial budget request, we did not know about 2 costs that we're going to be incurring next fiscal year. And it only became apparent after January, like 12, when we had to have the budget in. The first is the Family Act at long last is going to kick in. And if you're not familiar with the Family Act, it provides paid medical leave. It's not 100% necessarily, but for all employees, if your organization has 15 or more employees, there are no exemptions. So if you work for an organization which has 15 or more people, you're going to be contributing to this as well. So employees are going to be paying into it. And we haven't really told our employees a lot about that yet because we didn't know the amounts. Now we're starting to learn the amounts. So for a number of years, they kind of kicked this down the road and they never finalized it. Now it looks like it's going to start taking an effect, and we'll have to start paying come January 1st of next year.
Do you know how much that's going to be approximately?
We anticipate about $18,000 a year.
And does that include, if we kept salaries the same, that also includes the employee contribution?
No, it does
Or
not
that's
include,
just-
that's just our
just the library
contribution.
contribution.
$18,000. And that's a rough guess. We think that it will include any raises we're giving for the year. So that's kind of where we think we're going to be. And we hasn't, as I say, we haven't yet told our employees, guess what? You're going to have to kick into this. It's not a lot per person, but everyone's going to have to pay. So think of this as a tax. Now, unfortunately, although they said you're all going to do this, they didn't give us more money from the state to do it. So I am going to ask the county for an additional 18,000. We may have 9,000 for the first year because we'll start paying January half the year. But I would like us, and this will be a decision for you to make later. You don't have to do it now. Let's see how the budget goes. I would like us the first year to pick up the employee contribution because they're not expecting it. We're going to say, all right, this first half year, we're gonna help you out, but next year calculate this in. And it's maybe a couple of dollars per paycheck for many people. It's not going to be a lot of money. So over time, what will happen is this fund will build up and they'll be able to take it in addition to FMLA. And it's kind of broader than FMLA. So if a family member of just about any kind becomes ill, they'll be able to take some time and they'll get some pay. It won't be their full salary. There's a pretty complicated schedule on how much they'll get. And I did share a link with you for an upcoming free webinar. If you want a really deep dive into what's going on with this, you can watch that. They're not going to video it, but they'll have others coming up. And if you really want to see one, we'll kind of make sure that you can log into that. It takes about an hour just to find out what's going on with that. So in any case, I am going to ask the county for money for that.
Do we know how much the employee contribution? Sorry.
It's the same as ours. So
Okay,
it's
so it is
Yeah.
the same
split
amount.
exactly
Okay.
in half.
It's,
The same, it will be the same as what the library's contribution is. So it's another
yeah,
18,000.
we pay half and they'll pay half.
So what, the first year when we take over, if we decide to, you're gonna ask us to pay the employees.
I would like, and again, this is
How much are you
for,
going to ask us to pay?
well, that would be 9,000. And if I'm trying to get 18 from the county for this, and let's see, if the county gives us no extra money, we're going to have to think about, how are we going to do our 9,000? But we're going to ask for it, and just see if they'll give it to us.
Belinda?
He's right. It's 18,000 for a year, total.
But because it starts in
But
January.
it starts in January, so that's
Got
half of
it.
the fiscal year. So he's
Yeah,
asking for
thanks.
9,000 for
That's-
us. And
Yeah,
that's based solely on the salaries that we think we're going to be able to give to the staff, but we don't have a full budget yet. So we're still estimating all of that, still an open estimate. And I also want to be clear that the reason that we haven't told our staff is not because we're hiding this, but because the
Don't know
state
how
has
much.
not made any firm decisions on this until actually this month. They finally clarified exactly what the percentage would be. They still don't have a lot of the rules and policies in place, and they expect to have those by fall. So a lot of this is still so much in the works that we didn't even know what to tell the staff or when. And they have moved the goalpost as far as the deadline 3 times so far. So again, we didn't tell them because we didn't know when it
yeah,
was.
we
gonna
don't,
start.
yeah, we don't want to go to say, hey, guess what? You're going to have to pay some money. We have no idea how much.
Right.
Yeah, in
Hold on.
addition,
Go ahead,
in
Belinda.
addition, we are part of a consortium with the county and other libraries in the state and many schools in the state. And we don't know how that consortium is going to work and how we're going to pay through that as well. Because, and so to do this, the state is requiring a lot of paperwork because you have to match, you have to tell the state when they're taking leave, how much leave they have, whether or not they're going to be taking paid leave, not paid leave, how much they get, how much they're paid when they're out. And that has to be coordinated with us at the same time that they are out, because there's also deadlines as to when you have to tell them and when they can respond. And it's days. So that is a huge burden, administrative burden. And so all of the educational institutions in the state got together when this first came out 3 years ago and joined this consortium that will manage that part for us. which will be a part of how we pay, but we don't know how that's going to work because the consortium is also unclear because they didn't have any policies or procedures yet. So all of that is still in the works and why we haven't told the staff.
Yeah. So as I say, we just didn't want to tell them something and say, yeah, we just don't know. Best to say, here's exactly what's happening. So the other amount, well, there's two other amounts I'm going to ask the county for more money on. The first is for pensions. So up until now, the state, out of its own budget, has picked up educational pensions for teachers and for library employees because we're under the education code. So for this year's budget, they decided to pass some of the costs down. And I've emailed you about this. So half of the expected rise in costs in the pension is going to be picked up by the county. In our So we know what our pension is now. So our best guess on what our half of that increase will be is $16,420. 16,420. We're anticipating we have to pay that. I've been emailing back and forth with the county about this in county legal and saying, we know it's coming and the budget just got approved. So we know it's part of that. It didn't get taken out. We were hoping it would be. So we know someone's going to have to pay that. And the county says, well, it's probably going to get billed to us. But my concern is because it's for the library, is that ultimately the cost is going to get passed to us. So I'm going to ask for that money from the county. And there's a process for this. And I just got an email from them today because I had emailed the county commissioners and the county executive and the deputy county executive and the county CFO and said, we want to ask for this. And so the finance department emailed me back today and says, here's how you ask for it. So we're going to be turning in official ECC forms, and I'll be doing those tomorrow. The other thing I'm going to ask for is for money for materials. And I sent them an email with a couple of links explaining how much digital costs have gone up. And it looks like we've lost our, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's just the screen.
How much digital costs have gone up and how unbending the big five who dominate the publishing market have been in working with libraries. And the percentage over the last 4 years is an average increase in about 12% in costs. So I am going to be asking for that. At least one of you in an email back said, I'm disappointed. This is money for our users. This is money for county people who use the library. And we would like to have more, as is, if we have the same amount of money for that, then effectively we're going to be offering less because of rising costs. So I think we can justify these $84,000 additional increase. I don't know if we'll get anything or not, but at the budget hearing, we're going to say, please give us this money. So that's kind of where we are with the fiscal year 26 budget. And again, I really, other than I wish they had taken away some 40-some thousand dollars for us being basically honest about it, because
Transparency doesn't.
our
always
budget, our budget, I'm going to own this mistake. We didn't underspend on our budget last year. We were slightly over, so there was no savings. So next year we'll just say, okay, we'll look, did we actually save any money anywhere? And if so, we'll let you know, but I'm not anticipating that happening. So yeah. Any questions about that? Okay, well, Sign Die is coming up next Monday, I believe, the close of the Maryland session. And so the library legislation is pretty much squared away, and it's good news. The funding for public libraries will be in place. So after fiscal year 27, after next year, it was scheduled to stay flat. And what they've done is, until fiscal year 32, built small increases based upon primarily population. Now, that's not to say that we're going to see an increase. Should we see a sudden drop in population and a converse, it's a 14, they factor 14 factors into this. It's really complicated. But if we would see a drop in population and a subsequent rise in average income, we might not get any more money. That's what happened to Calvert this last year. Um, but so we'll see. But the good news is we can expect, even if our population stays relatively stable, to get a little bit more from the state each year for the next several years. The amount this year for fiscal year 27 will be about $26,000 more. So if necessary, we can use that to cover those expenses on the on the, what is it, the pensions. So that's good news. The bill that allowed teachers and library employees to strike did not make it through. So that is not going to be happening this next year. I'm sure they'll try to bring it back. We don't have a union here, so it was never really a concern for us. But there were all kinds of questions about, especially with libraries, which are run by library boards of trustees ultimately, what does it mean for you to negotiate with a union? And all kinds of questions like that. So I'm sure we'll see it again. But for right now, we don't have to concern ourselves with it. The student board member of the library board of trustees is waiting for the governor to sign. If he does not sign it, it's still going to go into law. He'd have to veto it, and he's not going to veto it. In fact, I would be very surprised if he doesn't sign it.
That one allows us to
Yeah,
have, but
yeah.
does not require.
Exactly.
Okay.
They modified it so you can have it if you want to. It can be a voting member if you want. You don't have to do it. It's really an option now. So that's going to become law. And at some point in the future, you might think whether or not you would like to have a student board member. And if you did, whether you'd want that to be a voting member or not, because it would make it an even number of votes, it could be a concern.
Do we want to discuss that next month? Put it on next month's agenda?
All right, we'll put it
Can
on
we
next-
add that to next
Sure.
month's agenda?
Why don't we wait until we find out whether we have the option?
Are you-
Well, it is, the law will go into effect unless the governor vetoes on Monday. And then, and the law says we have the option, but that it's optional.
Yeah, so you can talk about it next month because I'm, if I were going to bet, I'd bet a substantial sum of money that the governor's going to go ahead and sign this. Or even if he doesn't, it'll still become law. So, so that's just something for you to think about for the future. At the national level, the library, the LSTA, the Library Services and Technology Act, is the one way that federal money gets passed down to the states for libraries. It also goes to museums. And that's given us money for many things over the years, including, for example, our strategic plan and our facilities master plan were funded that way. We're looking at $20,000 to $40,000 coming to St. Mary's County that way. The current budget coming from the president eliminates that funding, but that happened every time in his first administration, and the funding was always restored. So we're pretty confident that money will go there. It's like $2.12 million. I'm sorry, $212 million, which sounds like a lot of money. I wouldn't mind having it, but if you factor that gets divided up among 50 states to thousands and thousands of libraries, it's really a very small amount. Think of it as the cost of one F-35 fighter jet. So it's not a lot of money, but we're grateful to get it. We think that will happen. HR 7661, which is a federal bill which is trying to ban certain books in schools, has gone to a committee. And so the library associations are encouraging people to contact their House representatives where it is to vote against it. Basically, it introduces the same kind of language which has been pretty consistently struck down at the state level, at the federal level, and also has a specifically Christian organization saying what books represent classics and don't. So it introduces a religious element into federal law, which is a little bit problematic constitutionally. We don't think it'll stand up in court, but we are encouraging people not to, our representatives to vote against that. And in Maryland, we will certainly find that the vast majority of our legislators will vote against it if the opportunity arises. So any questions about those? I've given you a map of the Charlotte Hall renovation. This is a draft. This is not to be shared with the public yet. We're nowhere near that. But I thought you might like to see kind of where we are starting. And if you hold it up like this, you can look at it from like the entrance. So currently, the front entrance will remain the same. And you'll go into the lobby the same. In the lobby, there's going to be an additional ADA or family toilet. We're also calling for the health pod, which is there, would stay, the telehealth booth. We're also calling for a wellness / lactation room there because you should have one of those for the public. And it shouldn't be a restroom facility according to federal law. So we've got that we're thinking about adding. Instead of turning off to the right where there's very little visibility going to the library, you'll walk straight down the lobby into the library and you'll see the circulation desk there is that kind of semicircle. So it's going to offer better sight lines. The staff area will be immediately as you enter to the left. And in there will be a manager's office for the branch manager, which we currently do not have. We'll have a flex office and we'll have another kind of private space, which can also be used as a lactation room if necessary. And just a place for staff can go, close the door, make a phone call. We don't have any of that right now. So it will be one shared office for all the staff there. And those of you who took a tour but saw that it's currently divided up into 3 and very inefficient. So then we'll have an adult area and an adult library. There'll be computers there. Moving to the back, the multi-purpose room will be where the offices currently are. There'll be study rooms. We're also calling for an audiophile room where people can go and do podcasting or make music. Because we'd like Charlotte Hall to have something that nobody else has, just as an attraction. Moving further back, there'll be a small meeting room as well as some study rooms. Children's area all the way in the back with closable walls to try to keep the noise down. So already we're looking at a more open space and I think a far better organized space. The one thing I'm asking them to do that's kind of really big right now is to, and imagine what happens if we did get a nice big grant. And this year, the state legislator did vote an additional 5.5 million for library capital funds over the 7.5 million that is always given up. So that's 13 million that's going to library capital projects. We're going to ask for 3 for this facility, and I'd like to expand it. And if we had the additional 3 million, it's possible we might be able to do some sort of an expansion. My initial thought is that we would close in that front courtyard and make it a space. And they're going to come up with a plan that sort of looks like that, a construction schedule and a cost estimate, because we have to turn in our grant request in early May, and we're on track to do that. We have letters from various stakeholders of support, including elected officials. And so we are going to be getting that all pulled together and anticipate no problem getting a good grant application in. We'll just see what happens then. That's kind of where we are with the facility right now. Now we have the architect hired through December, so we've got plenty of time, even during the fall, to have a public rollout to tweak this, to get staff input. Right now, we're just hurrying a little bit because they hired the architect a little bit later in the fiscal year than I was anticipating, and we have to get that grant application in. So this is kind of what we'll be basing that on. And as I say, we still got time to tweak this plan. So questions about it? And you'll have a chance to approve it once we have the final plans.
What's the room all the way down on the right-hand side that shows next to the children's room?
You mean to the right of the children's room?
Yeah, to the
Oh,
right.
in the back? It's a children's space with books and whatnot in it. The children's room is primarily for programming.
So that whole space is really.
That whole space
children.
back there can be children's area.
I
There'll
see.
be an opening wall and the whole thing can become the children's area. But then if we want to enclose it for a
Yep.
program to keep the noise down, we will do that. Yeah.
Got it.
Does this storage off of the multipurpose room meet the needs of the storage that you have right now? It looks kind of small compared to.
That was something I noted.
Okay.
This staff area is also pretty small.
I was thinking that as well.
There's
Because
not
you're
enough
putting,
workstations for all of the staff.
yeah, because you have, I think right now, 11, 12, including, and this is only 8.
Yeah.
Will there be some along that what looks like a counter as well there? But yeah, this is, as I say, this is just a draft, so don't think that this is final. We will be doing more feedback, but for now, as I say, we're kind of having to get going on this grant. So
Okay.
as I say, I'm encouraged by what I see in terms of opening it up more, and I think a far more efficient use of space. It would be wonderful if we could expand the facility. And I know that the county is very interested in us doing so. And a quick Smyrna update, they should be finished their facility study at the end of this fiscal year. They have HBM architects out of Cleveland, Ohio, who did our facility study. They did a great job for us. So I'm sure that they'll do something good for Smyrna. And at that point, I think we need to go and say, all right, shared space. So we're,
Can you clarify, is there a legal requirement that its specific square footage be allocated to Smyrla versus allocated to the library? Okay.
this has changed a lot, and Mary Ann, who's been here longer than I can tell you more about the changes that have taken place. But the library used to occupy a very, very small part of that building.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Ann, weren't we just the front kind of area, which is currently that meeting space for Smyrla?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
all.
that's all the library used to be when the building was first built. And then they said, okay, Smyrla didn't need a place, we need a library. So there's no legal requirement one way or another, and we're free to work with Smyrla and the state to try to reallocate. So
Awesome. And remind me again when their facility study is
the
done?
facility study will be done by the end of June, this June. So when I went for our budget hearing, Judith was there. I don't know if the rest of you saw it, but the first question I got asked was not about our budget. It was about Charlotte Hall space.
Mhm.
So I know that the county would really like to see something done there, and we're going to do what we can.
In that case, can we have Ashley come to the July meeting to tell us about the facility study and have a conversation about that space? That would be great. Thanks.
Other questions? 20 years of black cooking. I have 500, well, now 275 because 475 because 25 are here. We have them and they are printed and they're ready to go. So 400 of them are spoken for.
Wow.
The Southern Maryland Area Heritage wants to buy 200 of them.
Mhm.
And a private citizen here in St. Mary's County whose um, ancestors have several recipes in the book want to get 200 of them.
Oh, that's cool.
And they've both said, I want 200. And I've submitted an invoice to the Southern Maryland Area Heritage for their $4,000. And we will still have 100 to go. Their costing is $19.76 each to print. We're charging $20. We're charging that cost. So we will see how quickly they go. The foundation did pay for the printing cost, and they're saying, okay, fine, we view this as a gift to the library. So the library can take whatever money comes in, that will be a little extra that we can call a donation. So if we have to print more, I don't know if the foundation will say, well, we'd like to recoup our costs. That will discussion we have the foundation, but right now they've got a fair amount of money sitting around, so they were perfectly happy to go ahead and pay for these. So we'll see how we do with them. If we don't sell a lot, we can have the friends sell them at $20 each, and we'll recoup the money. We can have the museum sell them. They used to sell quite a few. We would get our $20 and they could charge above and beyond for handling. So we're not going to lose any money on these. And once again, the book is available for print. We're going to have a public rollout and say, now you can come buy it. And we're working out those details right now.
All right. Insurance?
We are doing a library inventory right now, and as soon as that will be done, we'll figure out what's our most expensive library, and then we'll start talking with our agent about how much it's going to cost to insure that. Speaking of additional costs for next year. I don't anticipate it being a lot. But yes, we will, I hope by the end of July, and preferably by June, so we can have some idea about the next year's budget, have an assurance cost for you for books, desks, computers, everything.
Who's responsible for liability? Right, the building owner or the library? If there's fire, somebody gets injured.
If it's a building thing, it's going to be the county. So for example, if somebody trips out here, as has happened, they say, we're going to sue you, they have to sue the county. So if it's a building thing, it's them. If we cause it, if we were to cause the fire, we have liability insurance for that already.
Well, I heard you say materials, but.
This would be an additional insurance policy on top of that.
So
Liability is already there. What we don't have is the money, and this came from I think a misunderstanding with the county on who's insuring what, but we're getting a figure for all that, and then the liability insurance we've already got. So this is an additional policy.
All right. So we'll look for an update on that next month.
Next time, definitely by June, we're hoping.
Okay.
So we're on to what's happening in the library, and I will not review the whole thing, but you've got the usual kind of sheet here, and I've been asked to do these in order of our strategic plan and the priorities. So for digital literacy, not on your sheet, I'm adding some things. I recently presented at a conference called Indie Live, where the independent librarians who actually offer libraries great digital costs meet with librarians to try to expand that market. And I was in a Shark Tank. So I had all these indie librarians pitching how they wanted to work with libraries on ebooks. It was a lot of fun, and I think they learned a lot. And we're looking to expand that market. Um, we did that as something related to digital literacy. Um, I was also the host and organizer of the Digital Shelf, which is a free series that we do with the chief officers, calls the chief operating something of State Library Association. They're the people of all the state libraries across the country. And we put on, with a group called Lyricists, we put on these digital shelves. We're averaging about 150 people attending each one. The most recent one was a publisher, a sort of forum where the publishers talked about what they were planning for upcoming digital content. We are also, and if you look at the front page of our website, doing a program with one other library. They happen to be in Iowa. And it's National Poetry Month. So what we're doing as a community read is we're making a book from Seven Stories Press called Ink Knows No Borders. It's about the immigration experience. It's poems about that, available for free to customers. It's not free to the library. I want a lot of people to get this book. And there's instructions on our website on how to do it. You can download it to a tablet or a phone, and very easily. And it's also, with a bit of more difficulty, you can get it on a computer. But there's two new license types that we're trying. And this one, basically, I call it subscription. We're paying a set amount, and people, as many people as want to, can download that book. So I want a lot of people to download that book. The other one was a pay per use. And so we're going to try two new license models. This one's a new license model that nobody's tried before. So we're going to see how we can do with that.
Is it download, but it's time sensitive? So it's
It's
just for a
not
time,
to
or it?
keep the book.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But it's difficult to download it to your computer?
It's
More
easy to do it on a phone or a tablet. It's more difficult to do it on a computer. It's automatically going to drop into your whatever sort of phone you happen to have or tablet you happen to have. If you've got an iPhone, it'll drop right into the books there. But on a computer,
Oh, so
there's
it's
a
an
couple of steps
EPUB.
you've got to take, and we tell people on the website how to do that. It's just a bit more complicated process.
Is it like an EPUB format or something? Okay.
The
Yeah.
old-fashioned way before
Yep.
we got all these wonderful new ways of doing it. But no, you get to keep the book.
Okay.
So look for that book, Ink Knows No Borders, and download it, please. Tell your friends to download the book. It is a community read, and we're having programs about it. So for the next one, which is innovation, here in Lexington Park, did Amy show you the UV lights?
Yes.
Okay, great. We got money donated to put those in, and the lights themselves were donated. So we hope that we can ultimately prove that maybe that will improve health, especially in the children's area, because it should zap all the nasty little germs that are there. We did go to an outreach STEAM day at the Patuxent Naval Air Museum, and 344 people attended that. Our next space is, I'm sorry, our next strategic plan is basic community spaces. At Leonardtown Library, we have a muralist painting in that copy center area, putting a mural up. So that's going to enhance that space. Leonardtown Library is restructuring its adult fiction and moving items around to try to get some better patron use out of that. We did here at Lexington Park release an RFP for the makerspace furnishings, so the makerspace is coming along. And for Young Minds,
Wait, Michael, can
yeah.
you go back? So you released an RFP for the furniture. Is that also included in the grant money that has already been allocated? Okay.
Yeah, that's all the money for the makerspace, which is about $150,000 with donations.
Mhm.
All of that is ready to go. We just have to start spending it.
Right, but the RFP and the furnishings should also be covered by
Yeah,
that money.
all,
Okay,
all everything's going to be the money's there for everything. Yeah.
perfect.
And for Young Minds, let's see, we had a Lego block party that had 56 people attend it. And our staff attended a pre-K expo with the St. Mary's County Public Schools. 105 people went to that. And basically every day is Young Minds Day at your library. We have so many programs about it.
Okay.
So we'll move on to your portion and the expense ledger.
Yes, absolutely. Any questions for Michael about any of the director's report?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Fantastic. Let's move on to approval of the EALs, which I do like having after hearing all those things because then it gives some context, I think, for what some of these are. My only question that I saw, the Amazon purchases that were fairly high this month, I assume they are for collection because I didn't see where else they would have come. I mean, I'm sure there's some that's also the miscellaneous, but
The Amazon could be anything. We do buy some books, not a lot from them. But we buy a lot of supplies. We buy some furniture from them. So it could be a wide variety of things. We do order, we've started recently doing a quarterly order of the supplies that all three branches use in order to kind of save. And we did just do a quarterly purchase of those. But it really, the supplies purchasing for Amazon depends on the needs of each branch and when they're needed. So, and if they're ordering thing. So some of the makerspace stuff will come from Amazon. And so you might see big ones then sometimes and sometimes not. They do come from other places too, but the Amazons can be everything. We do have a list of what's paid, but the payment itself to Amazon is a one-shot thing.
Mhm.
Also, they're starting to gear up for summer and the program supplies are starting to get ordered. So that's a lot of Amazon.
Mhm. Did we shift to ordering more things from Amazon? Because I think this is like the last few months, but before that it was, or maybe the Amazon was paid via the credit card before.
No, it hasn't changed.
Hmm.
Like I said, it depends on the month. It depends on
Sure.
if programs is ordering a lot, if supplies are ordering a lot, if we've got furniture that we're ordering for any need. It hasn't really changed. We stay pretty consistent and we don't go over budget on anything. So it's
Right.
a matter of where it's coming from. And our supply orders do look at other places, but usually Amazon comes in cheapest.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Were there any other questions about the EALs? Or I can entertain a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the EALs as presented.
Second.
So Dorothy moves to approve, Bob seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone approves. Old trustee business. So this is the review and revision of the Board of Trustee bylaws, which you have printed out. And I went and looked at it online as well. I think there's been a lot of really good work done here. Yeah.
Credit card.
Did you not have a copy?
We're
Oh, the
also, I
credit
think,
card.
going
Were you
to,
going
Oh,
to
the
that,
credit.
or did you include
No,
that in
it's
the-
usually included in the whole
Okay,
EAL's
included.
approval.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
I think we've also brought them up here for you,
Perfect.
and you can see your comments as well.
All right. I'm going to presume that most of us did review this offline and come prepared.
Yes.
Are there any comments that we need to fix or change that did not get incorporated already online?
No, I only had a question because I wasn't here when you discussed this. On page 6 at the bottom, it says at the completion, the information will be kept confidential to the trustee and the county and library staff who have need to know. Who determines who has need to know? And I mean, this seems like was there a reason for that? Or
Yes.
is there
Yes,
Since I'm
so-
part of the discussion.
absolutely. So this kept confidential to the trustees and county and library staff. I think that the trustees and the county and library staff would be the ones to determine who has need to know. The major thing that we don't want is we don't want that information getting out to the public before it's appropriate for the public to know. There have been circumstances in which someone, for instance, we had to do something to prepare for a change in the trustees. And that required someone on the library staff to make an order of, like some kind of thing like that. So that's where we included that to make it clear that the people that we're keeping this as tight a circle as we can, or as appropriate to the situation, just to be therefore aware, if you are a person who has that information, that it is confidential information and should only be shared with someone who has a legitimate need for that information.
So my question is, would it make sense to add who is going to decide who has a need to know? Is it the library director who decides who has a need to know? Is it the board who decides who has a need to know? Or is it just like, if they have a need to know, it's fine, and if they don't, they shouldn't have been told, but.
I'm your liaison with the county, so I need to know because they give me the names.
No, I understand.
So,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to limit it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Make it more specific so that it's clear what we're really saying. That's all. Or I was asking if we could.
I would say that some members of administration have need to know, and the reason why is because it has happened in the past that people apply who have been problematic library patrons. And I don't necessarily know who those are, but we have members of the administration who can say, okay, wait a minute there. So I would say, but it never goes particularly far. I would argue that there are some members of the administration who need to know, deputy director especially.
Okay, it seems like it's a little fuzzy, and
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah, so the phrase need to know is, in my experience, fuzzy on purpose because it gives the flexibility, but also then requires the accountability to say, like, so tell me why you thought that person needed to know.
So would it make sense to say, and library staff who have a need to know at the direction of the director of the library, and he would decide who has the need to know? Or
Do we want to add that?
Makes sense.
Do we want to add that? That's fine with me. As determined by, maybe as determined by the director
or whatever,
and the trustees or trustees.
determined by the director and board of trustees. So, I mean,
Well, would you
be-
need to have,
I'm sorry, Dorothy, do you want that to be and, or and/or?
yes.
I think and/or. Go ahead, Dorothy.
so do you need to have, it's determined by the director and or the board of trustees, since you already mentioned trustees earlier in that sentence? Or you're saying that the director has to come and say, well, I need this person on my staff or whatever needs to know, and then the trustees say, well, we don't think so. I mean,
That
I
isn't
think
what I
that's
had
our
in mind.
determination.
What I had in mind is we would tell the director, and he would determine who else on his staff needed to know, and it would be his decision, was what I had in mind. And I don't know whether we're all comfortable with that or not, but I am.
I'm
Right, so I'm
Exactly.
saying this, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm saying the sentence could end as determined by the director.
Yes.
Well, so I think this also allows us to share with additional people. That would be
we think of
in
it.
some extenuating circumstance where we feel someone has need to know.
So it would be a director or
So you're saying it would be just or in that case. That makes sense. You don't want to have any responsibility for that?
Well, my question, I'm sorry.
No, no,
had
go ahead.
something. Oh, so my question would be, okay, so the trustees have that information. The person at the county level has that information. The director has that information, plus we'll determine who else needs to know that.
Mhm.
So if we have and we add the board of trustees, who else would the board of trustees expand that needs to know that information?
Nobody, as far as
I can't think of anyone, honestly, but I would rather leave it open for the board to have authority over that information in cases maybe in the future where it came up.
like them all.
Right. But I do think making it or and not and or will make it so we don't have
It
to.
could be a possibility that the director and the board didn't agree on who needs to know. That's a possibility, and you would want the board to have,
And that would be the and or.
right?
Yes.
I guess I'll just say that
We landed on.
I guess I'll just say the most important thing here is that this goes to as few people as possible.
Mhm.
It used to be that before COVID that I had a folder and you had to come in and look at the folder and you couldn't take it home and you couldn't do anything other than look at it there, and that was it. They really want it buttoned down, so just as few people as possible as our emphasis, but I think that this allows for that.
Yeah. I think this is fine because it leaves it as and, leaves it as or, leaves it as either. We'll just move forward with it as such.
That's perfect.
Okay. Any other comments or things before we vote on the new bylaws? Okay. I will entertain a motion to vote on the new trustee bylaws as
Move
written.
We accept the bylaws as amended.
Bob makes a motion
I second the motion.
and Ramona seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I want to thank Bob and Judith for
Yes.
their hard work.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Did a
Mhm.
terrific job.
Okay. Up next, new trustee business request for the summer 26 or intern. You should have a piece of paper in your packet. Looks like this
Mhm.
that describes the hours and funding for the intern. It's the only one in here, I think, that's printed sideways. So that's a good way to find it.
Yep.
It looks like the total that they are requesting, which is going to come out of, again, going back to the treasurer report, it's
Mhm.
going to come out of this bottom total of currently $59,029.85.
Ah, okay, that's the question.
Yep, comes out of this one. That's the intern fund,
Mhm.
Fine, thank you.
and
How
it
much
is.
are we being required to give?
And so on the back of this sideways paper, you will see it is 3476.88.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All the numbers
I didn't
right
look at
there,
that.
ready.
That is, of course, the estimate based on 10 weeks of a intern. So just letting you know,
Sometimes they work more, sometimes they work less.
we try not to have them work more, but yes.
Does occasionally happen. So I think we'd probably, to hedge our bets, we'd be safe probably looking at somewhere around 37 to 4,000 coming out of this 59. Discussion or thoughts?
I move that we pick your number, 3,700, and we approve.
Okay, so Chuck moves to approve up to $3,700 for the intern. So I guess if you go over, you would come back and talk to us again?
Summer, I will give you this again filled out with what was spent, and you can vote on what you want to pay.
And then the rest comes out of the library. Perfect. Okay.
Well, it's actually, you're voting now to pay it, so but you would make that decision as to how much, if you wanted to change it.
Got it.
Thanks.
All right. So Chuck moves 3,700 allocated to the intern.
And Just a quick update for you. The foundation has funded an intern and the Friends have funded an intern. The other one will be the library. So with your addition, then our interns are covered. Thank you so very much.
It's great.
So can I get a second on the motion?
A second.
Ramona seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There we go. The final order of business is the use of the OPEB funding for the fiscal 27 budget. So you have in your packet this Bolton study that we went over before.
Yep.
And that Appendix B, it had multiple options. You also have, coming back again to the treasurer's report, what we're looking at is this top, the top account, the retiree benefit trust, the OPEB fund, which is currently funded at about 1.5 million and came down 2.6% in the last 3 months. This is up against, if you go to, just because I like to have you hold all the papers in your hand at the same time, this is coming up against this line, this OPEB line in the budget report for next year, not this year, but next year. Currently, the library funds all of the OPEB for the retirees out of pocket, out of the operating costs of the library. This OPEB fund was set up to fund that. And the thought, we have had many discussions on this in the past. One of the thoughts was to continue to let it grow and continue to add money until it was self-sustaining and could meet that 90,000. That's one idea, and that's one of the ideas that's on your bulletin, that we just don't withdraw from it at all. That's one of the challenges that we've run into before, is that does require us to have additional funding to put into it, because at its current rate, it will not become self-sustaining, especially since retiree costs or medical costs just keep going up. So the previous discussion we had was whether to continue to pull from the library's operating costs for this amount, to allocate some of the amount to come out of the OPEB fund, that's $1.5 million, to allocate the total 90,000 to come out of OPEB, or some alternative in between. The OPEB funding is required by law to only be spent on OPEB. So it's not, we can't move that 1.5 million to anything else. But if you choose to pull money from this for the OPEB line, that budget amount can be allocated elsewhere. So that's where it does benefit the library and allow for flex into other fields. Go ahead, Belinda.
So I do want to just give you the background on this. So you can make this decision for long-term, or you can just do this every year at this time in order to prepare for the budget. Why we're bringing it back to you right now is because I'm preparing the budget and trying to figure out all of the scenarios based on the money that we currently have been given. Hopefully we'll get a little more, but there's no guarantee of that. The OPEB line for next year is 90,000. We would like you to allocate, we're requesting that you allocate at least some, half, if not all of it. And here's the reason why. The commissioners gave us the 2% COLA and the 3.66% market price, but didn't give us the rest. And because of that, we still have to fund all of those other areas. They did take away 40,000 from the requests that we did make. We still have to fund. So all of that money for salaries can't go to salaries entirely. So we can't actually do a 2% and a 3.66% without the rest of the funds we requested. So I've done multiple scenarios so far. And so if you provide us with at least half, I think that would give us a nice closer to that market price that we're asking for, that they gave us. We still can't hit that because we're missing all of those other funds. But that's the reason we're asking you to make a decision. Now, if you don't, then we'll continue to have it. It's still in the budget. There's still 90,000 on that line. It does reduce our ability to meet that salary number that they actually gave us.
So which of these columns on this sheet are you proposing?
I would like at least half of the 90,000.
I,
But I-
But I would love
So
more
that
of
But
it.
90,000.
that's this it's kind of the column 3. It's the trust drawdown of $50,000
Yes.
because right now it's 90,000. That's the full
Uh,
amount. So she would be asking for 45.
and we did get a request to have Bolton go back and do $100,000 line, but they were going to charge us more. So I said, I don't think they'll do that. But you get a pretty good idea looking at basically twice that 50,000 amount of what we'd be looking at. Obviously, the market's very volatile right now. I My recommendation in order to try to fund additional materials if we don't get it from the county would be 90, but if we get 50, then 50 will be spent on the healthcare premiums for our retirees. The library would pick up the rest, and then that would probably give us that 50,000, as Belinda was just saying, to put into something that will do some good for our existing public or for our existing staff.
could we say we'll give you the 50,000 and if you can put any you don't use into materials? I mean,
So we will use the 50,000. Like if you give us 50,
no, you use it.
it goes to
The
OPEB.
question is, if you have extra money, where will you use it?
So what happens is if you give me 50 for OPEB, it's going to go into that line and that line becomes 40. So then that 50 is going to allow me to keep the collections budget at the number at which we are right now. And give this and still be able to give us a good salary rate. Whereas otherwise I have to reduce the salary rate to keep the collections budget. So it's really going to both collections or salaries, like it doesn't matter. It makes it the ability for us to do that. So
Right.
it's going to collections in some way.
I understand. And my priority would be to grow the collection.
Yes, ours too. And that is what we're trying to do is increase that collection line. I have increased it so far in this budget, but we had hoped to do more. But because we didn't get that amount that we wanted from the county, I haven't increased it as much as I would like to. This would give me the ability to do that.
And we are going to ask for more money from the county for this. So you could, if we get that money, make some other adjustment before the final budget, and we'll let you know exactly what the numbers are. But we'll just have to see if we're able to get any money for the collection in addition, because they really didn't bump us up there at all. And I think for the good of our collection and the good of uh, people who want to use the library, we do need to put money there.
So the other thing, again, to keep in mind, this is, as Michael mentioned, we can change our minds next month based on the final budget. And this is also just for this year. It's not committing to next year or we're not saying we're doing this forever. So we can look at it again next year. We put that in the bylaws that we can look at it again next year and say, how did the market do? Do we feel like we could support this again?
When would the money, from a cash point of view, when would the money be taken?
I believe at the beginning of the fiscal
In the
year.
beginning of next fiscal year, yes. So probably July, we would draw down that money.
Or would you do it incrementally, Belinda, which would be easier or better?
Well, right now, Judah's going to have to do it because nobody else is on the account, but I hope she's working on that. But I think we just go ahead and do it all at once.
We can do it either way, but yes, we can do it all at once, but it can be done at any point in the year, because we could do it at the beginning or we could do it halfway through. I wouldn't recommend anything past halfway. The reason is because we'd still be paying out of our operations budget until then, but it would be reinvested back into the operations budget. So we could, if you wanted to hold it for a little bit longer, we could do it right before the end of the year, something like that.
So
I
after
think
the operation.
We should be sensitive to the fact that the market's fluctuating a lot
Yeah,
because of
that's what I'm
political
thinking.
issues. And we don't want to take money out of the market when it's at the down.
Now's not a good time to be taking money
Right.
out, but.
So if we
next
could
July,
Oh,
I have
space
money.
this,
Wait, by
I don't know if the
July,
market
has
would
any
keep going
idea?
down, it would be a good time to take it
Yes.
out, but we just don't know.
If
And if we
it's-
knew, we'd probably be sitting somewhere else.
Now's
Um,
not as good a time as it would have been 6 months ago.
That's
That's
true.
true. Yeah, this is true.
So
Yeah.
the
So-
point is that you do have that option. Like you can make that decision. I wouldn't recommend doing it too much past next January because then it becomes an issue with our
Yeah.
funding. But
Mhm.
we can handle that operations for 6 months because we do have that in and out and we aren't spending all of our money. So we know.
So
Yeah, what we would want would just be a commitment, no matter what happens with the market. Let's just choose 50. You haven't chosen 50. I'm just choosing 50, for example. You say 50, then we understand it's going to be 50 to do the budget.
Percent or 50,000.
50,000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not 50%.
So we're looking at approving today the idea that we would have 50,000 available.
Yes,
And
that we,
then we can decide when we want to take it,
Mhm.
when we want to spend it.
yes.
No, later.
Basically,
And then, so next month, what happens is we say, okay, the county should let us know if we're going to get any more. We've got this. Here's a draft budget. Do you like that? And then the final budget approval is in June.
So one might argue, for example, that we would have $50,000, which would be taken out $12,500 a quarter,
You could.
Sure.
right? And that's why I was asking about the cash.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think today, just asking if we want to approve 50,000.
Yes.
Decision.
I don't want you to get stuck on this 50,000. You can do more. Because that will just help us with the materials budget,
Sure.
with making sure our staff get the raise that they deserve. So we really just need a number today so that Belinda could finish
budget.
doing the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by finish, I mean not finished because I don't actually have a budget number from the county
Yeah.
yet. I just have an option that they are
Yes.
giving.
So we have
$1,000.
a tentative approval.
We'll have more time to think about it later.
Yep, absolutely. A tentative
Second.
approval for now. So Bob moves to tentatively approve 50,000 with Chuck seconding to allow you that flexibility in the budget with finalization next month. And if we can make sure that gets on, I'm sure you will put it on the agenda for next month. It's probably already on there.
Do you want to vote?
Yeah. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or
It's
abstained?
done every year.
So prior to this year,
Mhm.
there has not been appetite from the trustees to use that money because the general consensus was that they wanted to grow it to be self-sustaining.
Gotcha. Okay. you
And
did
that's
say
why
that.
we
Yeah.
did the Bolton study, was to show like what that would require versus paying it down,
Mhm.
like versus paying it down partially.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's what you
that's
didn't
that's
say.
where all of that. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is like years of
So, yeah.
history and lots of discussion. So
Okay.
I do
Definitely
want
worth
to, I do
bringing
want to
up.
make sure that you understand the budget timeline. If I come with a budget in May, it's not going to mean anything because we meet so early in May and they haven't actually voted that final budget.
okay.
The last week of April or April 21st, or I think it's the 21st is the public forum, but then they meet again in early May and have their final budget. And that's where they take the information from that public meeting and make any final changes. So I actually don't know a budget number until they've met again in May. So I may or may not have that number by our board meeting. So that's why I can never present a budget to you until the June meeting.
Okay. Do you know what day that is in May that they're finalizing?
Yes, but I don't have it on the top of my head here.
Okay.
We can look it up.
Linda has.
It's on the county website.
Yes. Yes. And I think especially if we're meeting the 14th, but
We-
understood
We
that
should probably know.
getting till
we should probably
June.
know by the 14th, yes. But that's not definite. It may be the 12th that they're going to do that vote. so-
May 19th.
Oh,
14th,
then
so
we won't
we'll
know
have
till
to
June.
on that.
Okay. So then we'll put this on the June calendar for final approval.
June, it's always June for the final approval.
Perfect.
Because Until, well, the state budget's pretty much settled, but until they sign it, it's kind of like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was one last thing I think actually I did not see how that got resolved, and I might have skipped over it in the bylaws. There was a question mark that said, "Are we using Robert's Rules of Order?" And I think that we just approved the
But yeah, the question ought to be.
we just approved the trustee bylaws with that question in there still. So
So in point of fact, are you using Roberts, or are you using the county's modified, more informal Roberts, where the chair can make a motion, that kind of thing?
that's
I don't care.
I thought we should agree to use the county's rules.
Everybody, I mean, the county uses them, and all the other boards do. I think it's probably going to be consistent if you do.
I can't promise that I will because I just learned Robert's rules, but let's if we can revise section 6 on page 3 to cross out the do we use Robert's rules and substitute in the latest revised edition of St. Mary's County's Rules of Order.
And they're really very similar, Sharon. The only
Okay.
thing it does is it allows you a bit more power as chair. So you can introduce a motion yourself, and you can also then vote. So that's really about the only substantial change.
Perfect. There was one other thing that I just noticed, page 5. Is there a requirement to provide bylaws to the commissioners? I think that was a question maybe back to you.
Yes, once these are final, I will send them over. They get posted on the website with boards, commissions. They
Right.
just are our bylaws, but the county commissioners do not approve your
Okay,
bylaws.
perfect. Then I
You're
think,
separate from
yeah,
them.
we took out the any such amendment based maybe submitted to the commissioners. I think it doesn't have to
Submit
be
them-
there. That's
I
just the
submit
part
them
of
to
the
the county.
process.
And
Okay.
they'll put them on that website so that interested people who might like to know what you're doing in terms of your bylaws, or people who apply for the board might want to look at them.
Okay, let's just because I missed that the first time, if we can take one more quick look through the entire trustees and then we'll vote on it again. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. Finalized vote for the bylaws with revisions as noted.
Film a little bit more because I missed that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no problem. No worries.
Didn't catch that.
Someplace in the process, I lost it.
Under the section 3 duties of the treasurer, do we add shall be bonded adequately? Page 2. For the duties, section 3.
I thought
Look
that
at-
we put that under, I thought we determined that meant was the library shall be bonded adequately. And we had had a discussion about not needing the board to be insured. And so I did see it in here about the the responsibilities of the board. Let me look. Yeah, so if you look at page 4, it says the board shall ensure that the library and the board are adequately insured through annual reviews of insurance policies and levels. On page 4, section 2 of Article 6. Is that what you were looking for?
No,
No.
no, under the treasurer, that the treasurer shall be bonded adequately. Or is that, or you consider that the same?
We had that discussion years ago about it and looked into it, and I think it came back to this, like, we just have to make sure that we're adequately insured and the treasurer doesn't have to be bonded.
Yeah, we talked about that at length with our insurers.
So
And
adequately
with the county,
insured
that's,
includes being bonded.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
you are covered for that.
perfect. Good catch, Dorothy. All right. Are we ready to revisit the vote on the bylaws?
Move we accept the bylaws as amended.
Okay, Bob moves once again to accept the bylaws as amended,
Second.
and Dorothy seconds. All in favor? Any discussion?
Aye.
All right.
Do have 2 upcoming events. The first one, April 21st, starting at 6:30, Chapacon High School, is the public county budget hearing. You're not required to attend that, but I will be there and we will have people speaking for the library. It is televised. If you prefer to sit at home and, you know, have a glass of something nice and watch it on YouTube, you can do that too. The next one is next Tuesday, which is, I believe, the 14th at 10:30 a.m. because the commissioners are going to be meeting with the schools at 9:30. They'll be back in the Chesapeake building. It is National Library Week proclamation. So next Tuesday, if you want to come out for that at 10:30. I'm out of town next week and cannot be there, but we have ample staff going to represent the library. So if you wish to come out for the National Library Week proclamation, please do.
And I just want to remind you that April 20th through the 24th is National Library Week.
20th.
So that is when our staff will be wearing these shirts that you got and celebrating in various ways.
But the county is having the proclamation next Tuesday, so.
And we did want to confirm, we did check, the next meeting is the 14th. It is scheduled for that.
And that's
Thank
Leonardtown. And we will make sure that the meeting room is open.
So did we say the 14th?
Yeah.
14th still.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's the 14th.
Good.
And if the meeting room's not open, we can always try the conference room, which is what it was supposed to be to begin.
It is,
with.
we have it booked.
Oh, okay.
It's
Thank you.
booked and scheduled for the 14th.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all you do for the library. It is greatly appreciated.